Hey, everybody. I just got a small submission back from PSA. It's 6 cards. Each one of them got a 9, disappointingly enough. And it got me to thinking about something that people have been talking to me about a lot lately and other collectors. I hear this conversation happening more and more. It really started when grading fees went through the roof. And even as they've come back down, PSA's grading has gotten really, really tough. And getting a 10 is proving much more difficult than in years past. So everybody's asking sort of a question that, let's say, Hamlet might have asked if he was a card collector: to slab or not to slab? That's the question. Is it better to put something in a slab if you're almost guaranteed to get a 9? Or is it better to sell it raw, where at least the possibility of a 10 still exists? Well, I want to go through these 6 cards and take a look at their raw value versus their slabbed up value and see if I made the right decision submitting these to PSA, or if I would have been better off just keeping them raw and keeping them safe some other way. Let's take a look. This first card doesn't really apply to what we were talking about, but there were 6 cards in the submission, so I figured I'd show it to you. This is out of 21 Topps Chrome OTE. It's a gold. I don't know a lot about this kid, but he's supposed to be the best prospect in the league. For those of you who don't know what OTE is, it's a league that was created in Atlanta where they take 15 or 20 of the best high school prospects each year who don't want to go to college. They pay them a salary, they train them, give them a place to live, and then the kids enter the draft from there rather than after their 1 year of college. Anyway, so that's the card. This is a hold. He's selling pretty well, but I want to see what this kid's capable of doing. I want to see if I can hit a home run with this rather than just making a couple of bucks. So put that aside. These next 2 cards are out of Prism Baseball, which doesn't have a tremendous amount of value anyway, but both this Jonathan India Tiger Stripe and this Brian Hayes rookie auto snakeskin, this one's at a 35, I think. Yeah, 35. The Tiger's not going to be numbered. These 2 cards in 9s, just to give you an idea, sell at almost exactly the same price as they do raw. So these definitely didn't do me any good slabbing these up. Again, this was 10 or 11 months ago when I pulled these and submitted them, and the idea of keeping them raw didn't even occur to me, frankly. So these were ones I was going to send to PSA. It would have been great to get 10s. I didn't. Getting 9s on these, I mean, we'll have to see where the market goes, but right now, raw, could have gotten exactly the same price for these as they are as 9s. So the next one is a Giddy autograph out of Goodwin Champions. Again, it got a 9. Raw, this card sells anywhere, I mean, it jumps around all over the place, but it sold anywhere from $39 to $89 raw. In a 10, this card sells for $300 plus. In a 9, it sells right about the top end of the raw value, right around $90. Will that change? Possibly, but the print run on these is pretty big. This isn't one of the color splash ones. This isn't numbered. It is one of the numbered parallels. So looking at this and looking at what this card is worth raw, again, sorry about the glare. I've tried to work on it. If I hold the card like this, it's I can get rid of it. This was definitely not, this did not need to be graded. Now, I love Josh Giddey, and I think this kid's going to be a triple-double machine in the NBA. And if he stays healthy, I think he's going to be a monster for years to come. I'm glad to have it slabbed up. I got a 9. It is what it is. But as far as value is concerned, raw or like this, same exact value. This next card, again, is not a card that you would think in a million years you would keep raw, right? Not in a million years would you keep a Mac Jones Obsidian Color Blast raw. But I have looked at the sales on this thing, right? And I use 130 point. That's what I think everybody should use, by the way. It gives you the actual sold prices on this stuff rather than what people are listing it for on eBay. And the last one of these that sold in a 9 sold for $930 on July 20th. All right, so that's a while ago. Football season has just started. He had a relatively bad first game. He looked fine in his second game. We'll have to see what he and Belichick and the Patriots can do. See if this card holds its value, goes up, goes down. But like I said, July 20th, this sold for $930. Raw, this card has sold 4 times in the last 3 months. The low end of that sale number was $1,100. So raw, it sold for $1,100. Then it sold for $1,475, $1,675, and $2,025. That's what it sold raw. This 9 sold for $930. Less than half of what the last sale of this was raw. It's crazy. So I cost myself, by any objective standard, I cost myself hundreds of dollars by getting this thing slabbed up and getting a 9. Now, had I gotten a 10, it would have been worth many times that number, because they're really hard to get and you don't see any on the market. But in a 9, with what I paid to slab it up and the money that I seemingly lost off of what I could have sold it for raw, I cost myself at least $400 or $500 by putting this thing in a slab. That's crazy. That's crazy, isn't it? Anyway, so there's my Mac Jones Obsidian Color Blast, which I have now lessened the value of by putting it in a PSA slab. Now, the last of these cards, and I wanted to give this as an example because this is less important. It doesn't really matter. So now this is a Davis Mills from Rookie and Stars. It's his rookie auto, but it's a 1/1, right? So it's a platinum. It's a 1/1. And as a 1/1, the grade is really not very important. These you always need to slab. You need to slab them for a couple of different reasons. One, it authenticates them for people, and people know that they are what they claim to be. 2, it protects them. So getting this card put in a slab means that nothing can happen to it. Nothing's going to happen to it when you ship it. No, people know nothing's going to happen to it once they get it because it's in the slab. The grade on this being a 9 doesn't really matter because there's no other version of this. There is no 10 that can hit the market, so the 9 is going to set the curve. So anytime you get a very, very low number parallel, anything to 5, I think that always has to go to PSA, always has to get slabbed up, because in the end, you're the market. So it doesn't really matter. Whereas if I pull this back in, as short printed as these are, they're not that short. They're not 1/1s. They're not to 5. There are still a bunch of these floating around. And there's going to be some 10s. And the fact that there are going to be some 10s devalue this 9 greatly. Even if the pop count on the 10 is only 10 or 12 of them, or 8, people are still going to look for that, and they still want the opportunity. Think about how many people, when you talk about vintage, how many people are looking for, I don't know, a Ricky Henderson rookie, right, out of 1980 that can gem. Give me a gem 10 because that card's worth a couple $100,000. How many are going to do that? None. None are going to do that. But people are going to look for them. And it's sort of the dream that people are buying when they buy one that's raw, that looks really good. It's not about the card itself, because that Ricky that you think is a 10 will probably get a 6 from PSA or a 7 because they're hard to grade. They're really hard. And, you know, PSA is just much harder than they used to be. So I just want to keep in mind, I wanted to bring these out just to give an example of what you should be considering when you send something off to PSA, and whether or not it is actually the right thing to do, and not to reflexively send a card like this Mac Jones Color Blast to PSA, because if you're interested in selling it and if you're interested in flipping it, selling it raw may be the way to go. So ask yourself the question when you pull something big, or when you pull a few things and you're putting together that PSA submission, ask yourself the question that Hamlet might have asked if he was a card collector. To slab or not to slab? Till next time.